Hi, this is Nikita McGraw, coming to you with the 20th Ward Committeeman, Mr. Kevin Bailey, and certain to be the next 20th Ward Alderman. How are you?
That's not being, taking place. It kind of feels like they're just being discounted and passed over.
So from a parent standpoint, I can tell you that your plan would work. So aren't you just the quintessential Renaissance man, I see? Okay. So you obviously come from a good foundation. Hi, this is Nikita McGraw, coming to you with the 20th Ward Committeeman, Mr. Kevin Bailey, and certain to be the next 20th Ward Alderman. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. A little cold, but, I'm managing.
Absolutely. It's very cold outside. I did not want to wake up to the snow, but it is what it is. Every day is a blessing.
Hey, it's Chicago, right?
Absolutely.
Totally unexpected weather. That's one thing we can say we can expect in 2017, unexpected weather.
Absolutely. Being able to be ready for everything. Is it going to rain, snow? Will it be hot? Well,
exactly.
We're prepared.
It's just preparing you for what's coming, because it seems as though, from what I hear, you are actually going to be our next alderman in the 20th Ward, huh?
Yeah, well.
Little birdie told us that.
Oh yeah, well I like that little birdie. We have we still have an election to go through, and I have a job to do as a committeeman of the 20th Ward. But that is a fight that we're going to take on, and I anticipate being very successful.
Well, perfecto. So what we're going to do is here today is we're going to talk a little bit with you and just kind of get your thoughts and nitpick at you a little bit and have a little fun in the process, okay?
That sounds perfectly
good. Well, I put
good.
together a list of things that I want the people to know about you. So let's get to it, okay?
Sure thing.
First question. Do you support hiring more police officers to combat crime and gun violence in Chicago?
So I don't believe that more law enforcement is the answer to combating all the violence, especially gun violence. I believe we need to be, think outside the box a little bit more, be a little bit more creative when it comes to capturing the minds of the youth or those who have, idle time on their hands. So I believe that we need to hire more police officers? Yes, to meet certain quota and to make sure that they have the appropriate training and things of that nature, in addition to the current sensitivity that they have, sensitivity training. But as far as combating gun violence and crime, I think we need to have after-school programs, more employment opportunities, and just better options for the people to pick from. Usually with better options and more options, people usually go with what fits them the best, and committing crime is usually not their first choice.
Right, exactly. So, in your ward, the 20th Ward, what would you say are the top 3 issues and the ones that you will probably talk about the most on the campaign trail?
Absolutely. Well, first, I think it's important that if you are a representative of a community, that you go out and listen. I've conducted a listening tour in collaboration with Commissioner Richard Boykin. Also listened to the community with the late, great Commissioner Steele. And what I hear most in the community is focused on jobs, crime and violence, and education. For example, we have schools closing in the community, in the Inglewood community right now. Depending on which party you talk to, some say, we reached out to the residents and they said that they're in for it. But if you talk to the representatives that are hyper local there, or the parents whose kids go there who live in the vicinity, they're not bought into this topic. So we need to make sure that these issues, we have the people engaged in it and create these forums to where they understand the criteria for why a school is closing, what issues they're facing, how we can get around it, or what engagement we need from them. And the people don't feel like that has been that has taken place. And when you think about crime and violence, it's coming from so many different angles. People are focused on just the basic needs. We're facing homelessness. We're facing large levels of crushing poverty. Where people are forced to choose between, am I going to commit some crimes here? Am I going to go sell drugs? Am I going to go hand these weapons off? Or am I going to try to, find a new job? But if there's no jobs in the area, what options are we giving them? Okay. So the 3 topics are usually jobs, crime, and education. And we have a fantastic area for economic development, and we need to take advantage of the opportunity that we have there in the 20th Ward.
Okay, so we got jobs, we got crime, and we got education. So let's talk about education. Let's start there first. So do you support a change to an elected school board?
Yes, I do believe that we should have an elected school board. We need to not only have an elected school board, but also invest in teaching and demonstrating how important it is to have a local school council. For the parents who are engaged in a local school, we need to have them have the apparatus to express their interests, their viewpoints, and challenges to a school board, and have that school board accurately represent the people. Just like any other elected position, if we don't engage, it'll run amok, and we'll be right back in the same position that we're currently in.
That makes sense. So so what is the key to improving the public education, like in the city in general?
Wow. Well,
Loaded question.
Loaded question, and I won't even. It's not. It's a nationwide problem, but we do experience it here. If you speak to the students, they're not engaged in the work that they're doing. They don't feel tied to it. It doesn't meet their perceived reality. Nor does it equip them for the future. They have siblings, older cousins, parents who have gone off to college, and they come back and still can't find a career to follow or to better themselves. So they're not bought into the idea of having that higher education. So being able to offer options and highlight the trades and what significant impact that is, and that is a noble profession to have. It also, the way that the youth kind of view the curriculum. They're used to hearing about Christopher Columbus and all these other different groups, and they're not tied to that history. They want to know about their own history. They want to understand how their personal heritage and background has contributed to the place we call the United States of America, and that's not being, taking place. It kind of feels like they're just being discounted and passed over, and we expect them to say, no, you have to learn this history because this is what we say is important. Well, if we are providing a service to the students, we're failing at that service because we're not meeting their expectations nor preparing them for the future. So that's a really good step forward for education. But again, this is nationwide. But we do experience a lot of this here in Chicago.
You made a good point too, especially about telling the kids about their history, that they can actually relate to. And as a mom, myself personally, I teach my kids about Juneteenth and other things like that because I think they need to know. But guess what? I find that they have the most interest. So from a parent standpoint, I can tell you that your plan would work. Let's talk about economics. Okay, so one of the things, like how would you bring, how would you attract employers back to the ward?
Right. So, one, we have to begin to highlight the amenities that we have. We have, a few different train systems, public transportation that's there, and that is a huge facilitator for living in an urban environment. To get back and forth, you don't have to drive everywhere, and having access to that is fantastic. We are Chicago's the #1 transportation hub in the entire country. #2, I think, is like Kansas City. But being able to, highlight that for companies to come in and say, hey, we have a solid logistics plan for you. If we integrate you here, just being able to put together solid ecosystems like that, and understanding that there is a ecosystem available there to where each business feeds into the next, complementary and not tears down from it. So being able to have a robust business plan with people who are engaged that understand how to leverage these big box names as anchors, but also invest in the local entrepreneur, because that's where the uniqueness of our community comes from. And we have some wonderful people on the south side of Chicago, all over the Chicago, but of course I'm biased, especially in the 20th Ward, that have great ideas and great aspirations, and we need to invest in those people so we can realize and have shape the destiny of our own community.
So how would you use those amazing, persuasive skills to encourage employers to hire your local residents?
So I think a lot of companies come into our communities and they use a lot of our tax dollars to get started.
Yep.
And it's important that whenever these organizations come into our community and they're using our tax dollars, that they understand that there's a contract with the community. So community benefits agreements are extremely important to me. And that has to have, I want engagement in the local school? Are you going to help sponsor some football hats or baseball hats? Are you going to help the cheerleaders over here? Are you going to help with the after school program? Because you just got millions of dollars from the taxpayer that you didn't necessarily have yourself. You may have had the network, but we gave you the funds to make it work. What is the community's return on investment with that? And I think that's what we should always ask our companies, as well as entrepreneurs that are there locally. So I believe the business community appreciates someone that understands how business works, but will also not let them take advantage of the area that they're in. If they have a person that's in leadership that can really ask the tough questions and help guide them through some of the red tape that they face when they're trying to engage the community, I think they understand that that's a much more sustainable model. So they're not investing into a place that will eventually go out of business.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about from the police aspect as far as public safety, but the city in general, how can we, improve public safety?
Yeah, so public safety to me is huge. It's not only about police officers and firefighters and ambulance. Those are very important systems that we have in place, but we also have, the actual physical infrastructure that feeds into public safety. So to start with the police officers, there's been a lot of controversy around the accountability piece, and I am all about holding people who break the law, whether they have a badge or not have a badge, accountable for their actions. Because at the end of the day, law is law, and we're all humans. To disrespect another one or to think that you're above the law, it shouldn't be tolerated. So I think, so while you have the accountability piece, I do think we need to have a training piece associated with that. Training as in understanding more about the people that you're serving. Right now, a lot of the police officers may attend a Jewish museum to learn more about that particular history. I think that's great, but I think we need to have more of those because there are many more different types of demographics and heritages that live here in Chicago. So having an understanding of how the cultural norms are allows you to have a better understanding of how to engage that population that you're working in. Firefighters have some fantastic, training programs. There hasn't been as much controversy, relative to the police officers there, but, better training facilities, having them up to date on whatever new technologies are available, but also bringing people in to see what they do, how they can engage so we can better that relationship. And as far as the way that they respond to emergencies, we have a number of not school closures, but road closures that take place day to day. But I do believe we have to help our emergency services out by optimizing routes for them if certain streets are closed so we can save lives quicker. We have trauma centers that are in some places and not in others. Right. So for the places where they're not, we have to be able to get these ambulances with the people's lives that they're trying to save to the place the most expedient way. So I think those are ways that we can help benefit the emergency services, but public safety also goes to, how does the infrastructure look? Are people dodging potholes that are 10 inches deep? Yeah. And they may swerve, hit a person, hit a car, which causes your insurance premiums to increase. Yeah. Medical bills, which are extremely expensive. So we have to have solid infrastructure. We have to have clear infrastructure, paving the lines in the road. That may help save an accident. That's a life. And that's a part of public safety to me. So whenever we think about these different, programs to better our infrastructure, such as like a TIF, we need to take that into account, including our water system, include our air systems, and invest in the things that really create those efficiencies for a better quality of life.
So aren't you just the quintessential Renaissance man, I see? Okay. So you obviously come from a good foundation. So let's talk about your foundation. Where do you come from? Let's talk about who had the largest impact on you as a child.
Absolutely. Well, I'm originally from East St. Louis.
Okay.
I moved to the Chicagoland area when I was 12 years old. Lived all over the South, metropolitan South, Chicago Southland, from Inglewood, suburbs. But I stayed engaged. I understood where I come from
Right.
because I had strong leadership, such as my grandparents and my uncles, my cousins. But the person who had the most impact on me, and still has the biggest impact on me now, is my grandmother. I talk to her about every other day. She's almost 90 years old, and she's been there forever, from walking into the door saying, "Grandma, I want some pancakes."
Yeah.
And she does it. She gets the pancakes going. From that to getting me video games. And as I progressed through life and things become more serious, Grandma was there for the entire conversation. Well, I'm still close with all my family. I love my mother. I have a wonderful little sister, some nieces, nephews, and siblings all over the place. But my grandmother stood out because she would tell me about her history. She talked to me about her growing up with her grandmother and how I was able to relate to that and see how there's so many commonalities that she faced when she was a youth versus what we face nowadays, and how things have changed dramatically from a technological standpoint. But the quintessential, the core values that we face, from civil rights to equity to financial stability, are still the same fights that she fought.
Exactly.
So I see the importance and the relevance of learning her history, because I know what she fought for and people of her generation fought for. And that encourages me today to say, I come from a great place. I come from a great heritage. I understand what we're capable of. And I'm encouraged looking in the future on what we can change. It just takes some engagement. So Grandma was there and has a huge impact. And that's my number one right there.
I know that's
That's
right.
number one.
So that being said, I mean, like I said, you got great bones. I mean, you got a good foundation. You got Big Ma in your corner, so you can never go wrong when you got Big Mama in your corner. So, I mean, you have my vote.
Thank you.
Why should the residents of the 20th Ward vote for you?
Absolutely. Well, look, we're at the point where we can really change our community and have a elected official that is interested in representing them. I'm very accessible. I have the skill set to bring together a number of ecosystems, whether it's housing, whether it's about business, whether it's community development, or building people. I've been engaged in civic service, helping people such as Congressman Danny K. Davis, working with Commissioner Robert Steele, Commissioner Boykin, and being able to impact change without necessarily going to change the law. Being able to leverage the platforms that you have to get a company engaged, like a Facebook, to highlight that, live streaming, all the negativity, the live streaming murders, the live streaming the rapes, and all this stuff has a negative impact on our community.
Exactly.
Being able to reach out to him, to have him come to Chicago, take a tour through the community that we say is being most negatively impacted, and him sitting with some kids. Right? I think we need that level of advocacy, that level of creativity to think outside the box and touch people who can make instant changes without having to go through all the bureaucracy of changing the law.
Right.
It just takes some real advocacy, and I'm that advocate. I don't mind working. I work from professional, a little bit of personal life, a little bit of sleep, and then right back to the politics. Because what moves me and what motivates me is the status of my community. And right now, our community needs a fighter, and that's exactly what I am. Running for the committeeman seat is not a paid position.
Right.
But still, I have a service office because I believe in investing in my community is the best way to spend that dollar. Establishing ways and a plan to keep the dollar circulating in the community. Right now, it's only about 3 minutes to an hour. We need to make sure that whenever we create a dollar in our community, it circulates.
Yeah.
9 months. There should be entrepreneurs being invested in every year, new companies invested in every year. And as a thought leader in the profession that I am in, I help currently consult a couple companies looking to come into the ward right now. So I'm doing the work before actually being in that position. I have done the civic work and engagement, getting the registered voters population up, and I'm gonna continue to do that. And at the same time, create a succession plan. Because right now, our community suffers because we don't have leadership that has set in place a proper apparatus to mentor the next person coming up so we can continue to fight that our grandparents were fighting and build upon the success that they've had. So why should they vote for me? Because I'm a fighter, I listen, and I'm willing to work and collaborate to make our community better and uplifted.
Well, you heard it here first. So let's get this job done. Mr. Kevin Bailey, 20th Ward Alderman, you heard it here first. Hi, this is Nikita McGraw, coming to you with the 20th Ward Committeeman, Mr. Kevin Bailey, and certain to be the next 20th Ward Alderman. How are you?
It's not being, taking place. It kind of feels like they're just being discounted and passed over.
So from a parent standpoint, I can tell you that your plan would work. So aren't you just the quintessential Renaissance man? I see. Okay. So you obviously come from a good foundation.